Okay, so I'm going to show you the basics of starting your quilt. Now, you essentially, you're going to have to cut your fabric to the size and shape that you want. In this case, I started with the small squares, and I think these are, I want to say these are 4 inches. Okay, these are actually 5 inches by 5 inches. Okay, and remember, once you do a 1/4 inch seam on the side, once you do a 1/4 inch seam on this side and that side, it actually brings it down to about 4.5 inches, your final quilt piece. Now, you don't have to use square, you don't have to cut it square, you can cut it round, you could do triangles, oblongs, rectangles, whatever. This is just happened the way that I did this particular one to show you. Okay, so this I was using t-shirt material, and with the t-shirt material, because it's really lightweight, I wanted to give it a little more stability, so I used some fusible iron-on webbing on the back, and I think you see that in my t-shirt quilt video. Anywho, so I took 2 quilt pieces and I stitched them together. So this quilt is going to be a black and white and gray quilt, because I'm using a leftover combination of some quilts that some t-shirts that I had. Okay, so I basically cut out the different squares, and I'm kind of laying out my pattern first. Let me show you. I think there's one over here that you can't quite see. So I laid out how I want it to look, and then I also cut out some contrasting pieces of fabric, and these I'm just going to glue down. But on this piece, as you can see, I haven't glued these down yet, and I'm going to, but I stitched them. Here, I'll take this off. But I already went ahead and stitched these all together. So you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. Yeah, and it's just plain black, gray t-shirt material. So I've stitched those together, very simple. And then I kind of decided where I wanted to lay out my embellishments, or let's say make it interesting. Yeah, I guess I'll put that one there. And this one I'm going to put here. So it's up to you. That's the beauty of quilt making. You can kind of be very, very creative. Okay, so then I have these pieces already laid out. And what I'm going to do, I have some fabric glue, and I'm actually going to go ahead. I should have done it with these before I stitch them together, but I don't really think it matters. But I'm going to go ahead and glue down at random using some fabric glue, because I'm going to also make these like appliques where I, yeah, that's working. Where I'm going to stitch around the edges. So this one in all honesty, might not actually be part of the entire quilt. I may just make this into a pillow or something. So that'll just sit on the couch or chair. So right now, this is all I'm doing, because I wanted to put the applique pieces on there before I stitch the pieces together. And don't use too much glue, because as you can see right here, or maybe you can't quite see, it's kind of coming through, but I'll put some fancy sewing stitches on there. And I'm going to take this piece. It'd probably be better if I used a brush or something, like a arts and crafts type brush, but it's okay. It's my quilt. I can do whatever quilt project. I can do whatever I want. So got that on there. I think, did I glue that one down? Nope, I hadn't glued that one down. So easy peasy. This is all the fun. And the cool thing about quilts, you can do it little by little, take your time. You could do it with a group of friends or your family or your children. Whatever works for you should be fine. So, all right. Okay, so I've got everybody glued down. So I'm gonna go start working on attaching these pieces to each other. So these two, even though the glue is still a little wet, I'm gonna attach these two together, lay them right sides together. And I wanna line it up because I wanna be neat. And I'm gonna stitch this right down this edge, okay? And I'll finish this and I'll show you how to put the other two pieces together. But that's the basics of starting your quilt top. Remember, the actual quilting process is where you have all your layers of quilt, your quilt top, your batting, and your backing of your quilt. And that's the actual quilting process once you start sewing it all down. So let's go over to the sewing machine. Okay, so now you can see I was able to stitch down the little applique. You can call it applique. I'm not 1000% happy with how this turned out, but it's cute. So now I'm going to stitch these two pieces together. Although because I decided I'm going to make a pillow out of this, I might take 3 sections here. Let's see, could I make another 3? No, that's 4. Maybe I have to take 4, but that would be a really small pillow. Anyway, that's the basics on putting 2 pieces of fabric together to start your quilt top process. Just start stitching them together, and they call these quilt blocks. You could also do larger ones if you like, but we're gonna go with this for now. It's a start, and I'll probably make a few more quilt blocks to go along with this, and then we'll put it all together and we'll call it something. Or maybe I'll attach it to the current quilt that I have. I don't know. But that's how you get started. So I want to be sure to show you that, and just keep staying tuned, watching all my videos, and we'll see what else I come up with.